Hello everyone and welcome to my April wrap up. I had a quieter reading month this month, which I didn't actually realise until the month ended because I didn't feel like I was in a slump, or I didn't feel like I was particularly reading slow for the most part. Although when I look at my books for this month, it was definitely my lowest rated month. I don't think I really got much higher than like a 4-star. So maybe that's why I think maybe subconsciously I was reading a bit slower because I just didn't feel as connected to these books, or some of them anyway. So a few stats for you. I read a total of 5 books this month, and from those 5 books I read 1,905 pages. My most popular reading moods this month were mysterious, light-hearted and emotional, which I feel like are all quite different. There is quite a varied bunch in this month's wrap-up, I have to say. So the genres that I read this month were fantasy, classics, romance and mystery. So like I say, there is a big variety this month. And my average rating was 3.8 stars. So let's get started with the one that we've begun the month with. Also, I apologise if I look or sound a little bit rough. The hay fever is kicking me in the arse today. And I also burned my nose on Saturday, so my nose is going through it this morning. But anyway, bear with me please. I started off the month by reading Crown of Midnight by Sarah J Maas. Depending on how you read this series, this could either be the second or third book. For me, this was the third book because I started with the novellas. And this was actually my favourite book in the series so far, which I feel like could be, from the position I'm at now, quite an unpopular opinion, because actually, realistically speaking, not a lot really happens in this book. It's not massive, it's one of the smaller books in the series. I think it's like just over 400 pages. And it's basically more of a stepping stone into what happens next, because something pretty pivotal happens at the very end of this book, which sadly I knew about. I mean, well, I didn't know about it, but I guessed it. I wouldn't say it was necessarily spoiled for me on social media, but you just see so many names and terms being thrown around. I mean, this series is so popular that I kind of just put 2 and 2 together from the very beginning. Either way, the ending still slapped, and I'm very excited now to continue into the series. I feel like this is really the beginning of the true embodiment of the Throne of Glass series. So I cannot wait to go into Air of Fire. I'm going to be starting it extremely soon. This series is just about to get wild. But yeah, I rated this 4.25 stars. I don't think I've said that yet. So my favourite book in the series so far, for sure. I just love dissecting Selena as a character. You just learn so much about her as the books progress, and I'm just loving her as a character. Then the next book I read this month was Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I've been wanting to read this book for so many years, especially since they released the more modern film adaptation of Little Women with like Florence Pugh and Emma Watson and everything. And I was going to watch that film, and I'm so glad I didn't, because I was really holding off so that I could read the book first. However, I did do it wrong. Well, not wrong, but like, I didn't realise that this book can also actually come in 2 parts. So little did I know there's Little Women, but also depending on the book that you go for, there's also, I think it's called Good Wives. So I haven't actually had the full story yet. This is the one that I've read, which is the 4 sisters growing up, but I haven't actually seen what happens in their adulthood lives. So I have reserved Good Wives from the library, so I feel like I've only got half the story here. But from this book, I rated 3.5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I think it's just the more traditional way of writing. I just struggled to connect with a bit more sometimes, but I really loved the story. If you don't know, it just follows 4 sisters, Beth, let's see if I can remember now, Jo, Beth, Meg and Amy, and they're just living a life not necessarily in poverty, but they are struggling to make ends meet. Their dad, I believe, is fighting in the war or something along those lines, the American Civil War. And yeah, in this book, we're basically just watching the girls come of age and grow up. They have, all 4 of them have such distinct personalities, which I loved. I just loved following all 4 of them. I think either Jo or Beth are my favourite characters, but I would really recommend this for a cozy like springtime read. It did take me a while to get through this considering the length. Again, I think one, it is how foreign the kind of writing feels. It takes quite a lot for me to really digest what the book is telling me, and also the writing in this book was tiny. So while I was looking at it and I was like, oh, it's gonna take me no time at all to read, I literally opened it and I was like, oh my god, look how small the writing is. But yeah, there was also so many like lessons to learn in this book, and that's sometimes why I do just love a classic, because it's like looking at the hidden messages. There was a few little paragraphs and moments within this book that I did end up saving for later, because I feel like it can just teach you such important lessons. But yes, I enjoyed the first half and I'm definitely excited to get into the second half whenever I get that from the library. Then we moved on to Daisy Hates by Jessa Hastings, and I did do a reading vlog for both like Crown of Midnight and Daisy Hates. It was part of my book series reading vlog, so if you'd like to see a more in-depth process of me reading these books, then go ahead and check that video out. But yes, I finally got into Daisy Hates. I read Magnolia Parks in December and absolutely fell in love with it. I think it definitely is one of my favourite books of all time, so I can't believe it took me this long to get my hands on Daisy Hates, but I gave this 4.25 stars. I am definitely a Magnolia girly, I think, based on the first two books. Obviously I've read Magnolia's first book and now Daisy's first book, and I did feel just more connected to like the characters and the story and everything from Magnolia Parks as opposed to Daisy Hates. I'm not a massive like mafia or gang girly. I know there are some girls out there that love that kind of stuff in their books and like their romance books and things. For me, it's not what I'm naturally gravitating towards, but I did still appreciate it in this book. So basically this book follows Daisy Hates, and it follows the same timeline that Magnolia Parks follows, but we're just following it from sort of different characters' perspectives. And basically in this book, we're following Daisy, who is the sister of a like gang lord, Julian. He basically steals art and things for money, and he's notoriously good at it. And it also follows a character called Christian, who Daisy is in love with, but Christian is also in love with Magnolia Parks, so we've got like a bit of a love triangle situation going on. Obviously it's hard of these books to classify them as romance, because whilst they are largely based around characters being in love and having these toxic relationships with other characters, I feel like nobody should go into these books expecting a fluffy fun time, because that is not what you're going to get. You're going to get emotional damage, you're going to get incredibly frustrated, but it is so worth it. This was quite a chunky book, and I think that's where my rating dwindled slightly, because like I say, whilst I feel like I could spend pages and pages and pages of some of these characters, this one did feel a little bit dragged out for me, like just a touch. I started to lose a little bit of my interest here and there. But I mean, Jessa Hastings, like, she just writes characters so perfectly. She just writes so perfectly. Her writing is beautiful. I'm jealous of the way she's just able to personify things, use metaphors for things, describe things in such an ethereal way. I am 100% obviously going to continue this series. And then I move on to the last book from that reading vlog, and that was The Final Gambit by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Final book in the Inheritance Games trilogy. I rated this book 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than the former book, which was The Hawthorne Legacy. But this book, as you can imagine, is just following the sort of end game portion of the trilogy. If you don't know, it basically follows a girl called Avery, and she's just a normal girl living a normal life when all of a sudden she's contacted and told that she's inherited billions and billions from a family that she doesn't know. Like, she's never heard of them. As far as she knows, she's not related to them. Like, why has she got this money, you know? And this is following the end game from that, because in these books, the characters kind of have to solve puzzles and riddles and follow certain rules to actually then be entitled to this inheritance. And that is basically what we're doing in this book. We are unraveling threads of the final mysteries and finding out the answers to all of our questions. I feel like Avery's character took such a 180 at the end of the previous books, and I was really excited to see how that unfolded in this book. And she's just such a great character. I adore Avery. I adore her relentlessness and the relationships that she has with the Hawthorne brothers. This book actually made me really emotional. I did cry at one point of this book because I have just become so attached to these characters. They're all so likable. It's a YA mystery, if you didn't know, so I feel like I do generally connect a bit more to YA characters, because I think authors write them with obviously younger audiences in mind who will want to relate to these characters, and while I don't feel like I necessarily related to them, I really cared for them. I think Xander is possibly my favourite Hawthorne brother, but I do love Jameson. I mean, I love them all, honestly, but I feel like this was a really great conclusion to the whole series. For me, it's like a 4-star series. They were all just consistently great, so quick and easy to read. If you like want a really quick book to maybe get you out of a slump, or I don't know, if you're doing like a reading sprint or something, these are fantastic books to include because the chapters are so short. It just makes the whole experience feel so much quicker. I'm feeling very accomplished to get this series done and dusted. I know there is like a spin-off about the Hawthorne brothers. Maybe I'll read that at some point, but I haven't heard the best things about that, so we'll see. And then the last book is actually the book that I was most excited for, but the book that I'm most disappointed by, which is so sad to say, and that is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I've had my eye on this book for months, ever since Rachel Catherine read it some point last year. It just sounded so up my street and like something that I would absolutely love. I only really dipped my toe in cozy fantasy last summer. I read Legends and Lattes and I really enjoyed it. I think I gave that like a 4-star. It was just a quick, easy, cozy time, low stakes, obviously, just essentially reading about people meandering through fantastical worlds. And as a girlie who's grown up with just fantasy as like the heart of everything that she loves, I just thought, perfect. I just want to chill out with this professor, walk through mystical lands and meet fairies and magical creatures and just have the coziest time. But it did not give me that. And I think that is the premise of this book. As I say, you're following a professor who's trying to complete her encyclopedia, basically, and she's traveling through different realms that she hasn't been to before, and she's just documenting all of these processes, not even just with creatures, but like the environments and everything. I also feel like I want to start off, because I didn't see anybody talking about this at all, but maybe this is just me being naive. But when I heard this book was about fairies, I thought it was gonna be like mystical creatures, kind of like Pokemon vibes, like, I don't know. But it's not. Like, the fairies are basically humans to a degree, like not obviously humans, but they're like humanoid fairies, I suppose is what I should be saying, which was I don't know why that was disappointing for me, but it just kind of was, because I feel like from the cover it looks so much more mystical than that. Then, you know, I feel like it would have been like as if the main character in this book would have gone to like Prithian or something from ACOTAR and started studying Tamlin, and then goes to the Lion Court and studying like Illyrian warriors, and like, I know they are classified as fae, but I don't know, that wasn't what I was expecting from this book. But anyway, that's not the main problem. The main problem for me was the writing, and that was the main blocker into why I couldn't get into this book. Just for context, I rated this book 3 stars. Not a terrible rating, to be honest, possibly quite generous. I'm just in denial, basically. But yeah, the writing in this book was just, Destiny said it perfectly actually in one of her videos, textbook, like so textbook. There's like citations and things, which isn't a problem because you get citations in like Daisy Hates and that, but there's like, some of them are like so long and like so info dumpy, but to a point where it literally is like gibberish. It makes no sense, and some of the bits are never really fully explained, so that just felt pointless to me. Also, just the way that she was describing things. So all of the writing in this book is basically treated like the professor's, Emily Wilde, don't know why I keep calling her the professor, her journal as she is collecting her research. So in theory, you'd think the writing would be quite formal, I suppose, to a degree, because like I say, she is documenting all this information for her encyclopedia, so she obviously wants it to be, you know, academic and all that kind of stuff. But the descriptions for some things were like an entire page long for like the most tiny thing that she is describing, and the adjectives were so abstract, and I just thought that is so unnecessary, and it stopped me from being able to like focus, because it was taking so much of my brain power to understand what she was trying to tell me. And as I say, I didn't really want to be using brain power in this book, because it's supposed to be a really easy, cozy fantasy. It didn't give me the cozy vibes. It was such a struggle to read, and I really did consider DNFing it. I think I was in like the most minute slump when I read this, which is why I gave it 3 stars, tried to give it the benefit of the doubt. But I found myself having to constantly like reread bits in this book because I just couldn't digest it. I did really like the male main character, Bumblebee. He grew on me quite a lot throughout this book. He was probably the one thing that I managed to like focus on and read properly, but the rest of it just really fell flat, and that is so sad. I think I will give the second book a chance because, like I say, the premise of this was just so exciting to me, and I am in denial that it just didn't hit. I think I'll give it a go, like no strings attached, not expect anything great, and see if I like it. But I am so upset because I thought this was going to be a 5-star and it could not be further from. So that is it. Those are the 5 books that I read in the month of April. As I say, we've got like fantasy, mystery, classics, romance, it's all in there. But I hope you did enjoy this very quick, speedy wrap up. Please like, comment and subscribe, all that lovely stuff. And I will see you next week with a brand new video. Bye friends.